This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Stefano.
Really? Really? I was wondering what accent you were going to pull this time or what I was going to be called this time. So
I'm going to have to start actually doing some research and actually like figure out your name in like, I don't know, whatever. I just did. Well, that was Italian, but we, figure it out in Russian or something. So.
Oh yeah, that'll go over well.
Okay. So we're on our climb to 100 and man, we've got something special in store for our listeners on that one. We've had a really good run here, and today we're not disappointing. We got Joel Pilcher on the podcast. Joel's a professional artist and just really great dude, super conservation centric, but tells a story each and every time with his artwork. Just a really talented guy, and it was a really cool get together with Joel. I think you were away on this one too, right?
Another one I was away. You managed to stack him up that week.
I know it's Steve's away. We got to do lots of podcasts so I can get all my face to face with these guys. I'm just kidding. So no, you were missed, but we had a great chat with Joel and talked about his upbringing, his passion for wildlife, and then just some of his artwork. Offline, we had some discussion around a collaboration with Joel, and we're working something in the background. I'm not going to let it out of the bag here, but expect something for our fundraisers in the next few months that we can maybe work with Joel on. And so we're still working on it. We got some ideas, and we're pretty excited about it. And you're going to see more from Joel and collaborating with the Wild Sheep Society BC. Pretty cool.
Oh, his stuff I've checked out it's unreal. He does a lot of coal stuff, right?
Charcoal, really cool.
Charcoal. Like, holy crap. Just, I do chicken scratch. I can sit there for 20 minutes and draw like the best stick figure there is. And I don't get these people that can just put pen to paper, so to speak, and just knock it out the way people like him can. One
thing I love about Joel is he tells a lot of the story in his artwork. Like you go to his website, Instagram, you follow the guy, and he'll actually, he'll document his art as he's doing it. So he'll have a reel or he'll have a video, and you'll sit there and you'll watch him create something over a day, and he'll distill it down into like a 40-second clip or something. You're just like, wow, that's phenomenal. It's he does a great job of telling the story.
Yeah, I love those. The 8 hours worth of drawing and 30 seconds worth of time lapse, and you just watch it come together. It's unreal. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so just one of the things, Wild Sheep Society BC, today we just dropped a new membership promotion, and we're calling our Conservation Partner Membership Promotion. Really cool what we're doing here is, Steve, people are always buying memberships for other people. I know you bought one for your wife and your daughter, who's a dedicated conservationist. I love Kaylee's involvement in the society. She's already aging sheep, so yeah, she's.
Oh yeah,
I'm forecasting her getting a sheep before you, buddy. Just saying.
I hope so.
But we got this cool membership promotion. We've teamed up with our conservation partners, and there's two ways you can enter. You can just buy a regular membership like you normally do, or upgrade, whatever the case may be, and you get points. And the more you buy, the more you spend, the more chances you get to win. So that's one option, just like a normal membership promotion. The second option is you can buy a gift for somebody. So we're calling it the gift of conservation. For example, buy a life membership for a family member, a friend. You get 5 chances for the person that you bought it for, and you get 5 chances. So you're both getting a kick at the cat. So a chance to be rewarded. The grand prize winner of that, we're going to draw that on January 3rd. And we're going to give away $1,000. You can spend it with our conservation partners. So we've got 6 conservation partners. Pretty sweet lineup. Gunworks, Stone Glacier, Sitka, Swaro, Precision Optics, and Yeti. Pick one of those ones, or a derivation of that, whatever you may like. You got $1,000 you can spend with any one of those through our conservation partners. So thanks to our conservation partners for making this happen, and just a great opportunity. Like I said, as we said, you buy memberships for friends. I buy them for friends and family, and I'm definitely going to buy a few people some memberships on this promotion. Just a great opportunity to introduce them to the society, the great work that's being done for conservation. $1.18 million over the last 5 years, less than 5 years. That's a pretty good footprint on the landscape. So, let's share this with friends and family. Anyone that's as passionate about wild sheep as you are, and we'll just continue to grow and do what we do and look after wild sheep and wildlife in British Columbia.
Oh, totally agree. It's the only problem I would have is there's so many places. Like there's 6 places there that I could spend $1,000. Like I've got a lot of that stuff, but where would I spend it?
That's a good problem to have.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. And you can, of course, add extra money on top, right? It's a $1,000 gift certificate to add on to whatever you want to do. So $2,000 pair of binos could be $1,000, right? It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a sweet deal. Head over to wildsheepsociety.com, click on the membership tab, and pick up a membership. And hey, if you've been listening to the podcast, we'd love for you to give back a little bit. Obviously we provide this fee for free, but we'd love to see you involved, share more of what we do, get a great magazine. There's a lot of great benefits to being a member and just being part of the club, being part of an organization that does what we do for wild sheep and wildlife in British Columbia. So,
and that magazine's totally revamped and changed. It's looking great. It really has. We've done a lot of great work there. So,
absolutely. All right. So with that, head over to wildsheepsociety.com, pick up a membership, and we're going to share episode 98 with you, Joel Pilcher, and enjoy the listen.
The perception of hunting, has changed. It's our duty now, our responsibility as hunters, to change it back. And we've spent the last few decades trying, espousing that message, preaching that message about wildlife conservation. It's fallen on deaf ears, all of our attempts. I think what we have to do is maybe appeal to the emotional side or the visceral side. We have to tell our story. We know what we are. We know how deeply we care about wildlife. It's just the people out there that are voting to get rid of hunting, they don't understand our stories. Sometimes we have to translate it to something that they understand.
Well, good afternoon, Joel. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. I see you're in the studio. Tell us where you're coming from today.
I'm at home. I work from home. I live in Utah, just about 30 minutes west of Salt Lake City. So I've just got a little area set up in my basement where I have my studio, my easel, and do my painting, my charcoal work, and a little bit of sketching and stuff here. So yeah.
Awesome. That's command center. It looks awesome in there, and I can see you got a real cool charcoal going on right now. So really, really awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you're a Utah native, hey? Born and raised, and spent your whole life there?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Yep, I was raised in just south of Salt Lake City, so I'm not too far from where I live now. But grew up out here in the Rocky Mountains and spent a lot of time up in the hills and in the outdoors and enjoying the beautiful areas out here and the wildlife and everything. So yeah, born and raised in Utah.
It's a pretty awesome spot to raise a family, and especially if you're an outdoors type of person like you are, it doesn't get any better. Utah is just such a great place to be.
Yeah. It's we've been tempted to move away a few times, but we just haven't ever pulled the trigger because it's just there's so much that Utah has to offer that you can't find anywhere else. It's just a wide variety of geography and terrain. From the Red Rocks down south to the Alpine, and up in the Quakies and pine trees up above the, up north, and you get Lake Powell. It's hard to beat if you haven't been to Lake Powell. I mean, that's one place that you ought to have on your bucket list because it's an incredible area down there. It's unlike anywhere else as far as I've experienced. So yeah, Utah's, and then you get the winter. I'm a fan of snow sports as well. Done some snowmobiling and snowboarding in the wintertime, and it They say it's the greatest snow on earth, and I tend to agree from my experience.
Right.
So yeah, Utah's an awesome area.
Cool. So pretty diverse, ecosystem. There's, lots of different stuff that you talked about there. If you kind of pinpointed kind of your favorite, if you're like, okay, this is the place you got to go see, where if I was coming down and check things out and you said you got to see it and there was only one thing, where would you take me?
I think you'd have to go to a Red Rock area, whether it's Moab or St. George or around Lake Powell area. I mean, if it's summertime and you can get to Lake Powell, that's, like I said, it's just hard to find anywhere else like that. But Moab's incredible for off-roading, mountain biking. Yeah, it'd have to be one of those two. The mountains are incredible as well, the Wasatch and the Uintas, but I think other states have similar areas with the pines and Quakies and that type of terrain. So it'd have to be Moab or Lake Powell area. Those Red Rock areas are just so much fun to see, and it's funny when we go, because we go down there quite a bit, and every once in a while when we're there, I have to take a step back and try to look at it through fresh view, fresh perspective, because we're so used to it because I grew up here. But to step back and just try to imagine what it'd be like to be there for the first time again, and that helps to kind of bring back the majesty of the area and that feeling, and it's just, yeah, it's incredible down around those parts.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your upbringing and how you evolved into, I guess, the art side of things, but then the connection to wildlife. And so maybe let's start with the wildlife side of things first, and then, but I want to meld the two and how they came together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've always loved the wildlife. I grew up hunting with my dad. We'd go out every year in the fall. Usually when I was really young, we'd just go on the general season rifle deer hunting mule deer, and we'd go up there every year, and it was always a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed the time. It was mainly, like for a lot of people, it was mainly spending the time with my dad and building that relationship with him. But I did love the chase. I loved, stalking the animals, and just a lot of excitement there. And then as I got older, when I started hunting, we did a lot of black powder muzzleloader hunting. So that was a lot of fun as well. But I've just always had a love for the wildlife, loved seeing them out there. Elk are by far my favorite species to draw. I like drawing them all, but something about the elk, and especially if I can do a big bugling bull, there's just, I don't know, it just flows out of my mind and through my hands and onto the canvas, and it's just, it's a passion I have, drawing bull elk. So yeah, just it's from the time I was a little kid. I mean, we'd go up to Yellowstone quite a bit, and see the bison up there, and up through Idaho, Island Park area. We used to go up to Island Park every year when I was a kid, in the wintertime, actually, on snowmobiling. And it was always fun to see moose up there. We'd always see a lot of moose in the wintertime down in the willows, in the waterways in the river areas. And yeah, man, just something about seeing the wildlife and their natural habitat was always inspiring to me.
So on the art side of things, you mentioned bull elk, and I have to say, your stuff is amazing. But that recent one that you did, and you that painting that artwork you have above your fireplace, recent one that you framed is absolutely stunning. What is it about elk? Is it because of your natural connection with the animal, or is it just and they're beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I can see why that attraction would be there regardless, but is it the animal that attracts you, or just the natural beauty of it, or the artistic connection? Where does it come in?
It's a lot of different things. It's there's nothing like being up on the mountain and hearing an elk bugle. That ghostly, almost otherworldly sound of them bugling, and echoing through the pines and everything. That's always just fascinated me, and I've always loved that. But when it comes right down to the technical side of it as well, the texture in the antlers, I love. They're actually their facial structure and facial features are pretty challenging to render and to do accurately. And I think initially that I like a challenge, and that was always a challenge to get a bull elk's face done correctly. And now that after a lot of practice, I've gotten to where I can do it pretty well. So it's always fun to take on that challenge and be able to complete it and make it look good. But yeah, it's just a lot of different things. And I mean, I have to be honest too. It's a top seller, So it's 10-1 over all my other work. Bull elk, it's kind of the money maker for me. It puts food on the table for my family. So I'm sure that plays into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So from your early days, like you talked about being out with your father and that connection, that familial connection. I know you take your kids out now too. Early days, was it always mule deer that you guys were chasing? Like what was your kind of, I guess, a first memory hunt for you when you were out hunting with your family?
Yeah, it was mule deer for the most part when I was younger. And I don't know that there was one specific experience. I do remember when I was young. My dad he started out as a carpenter. That's what he did for a living, and it was tough. It was a tough way to make a living. And I remember every winter, as the weather would come in and work would slow down for the company that he was working for, and almost every winter they'd lay him off. So he'd go a few months during the winter where he didn't have any work. And leading up to that, would be the fall hunts, and we'd go out and we'd chase mule deer. And I remember it was for my dad. It was he depended on the meat to feed our family. And I remember just once or twice where we we weren't able to take a mule deer. And I remember the look on his face. I've shared this before, but I remember the look on his face, and it was worry, concern, because he wasn't sure that he had the means to feed his family throughout the winter, those times that we didn't take, weren't able to get an animal. And I remember it was impressionable on me at that time, and just how much that meant to him to be able to go out and to hunt and actually provide, for his family. It's something that was crucial to being able to support us. And then, later on he ended up starting his own business and, worked hard and was able to become a general contractor, and work got a lot more steady. And then it, became more of the recreational and us, being able to spend time together. But those early hunts when it was something that was important for us to be able to make it through the winter, those I think were some of the hunts that I remember the most.
Yeah, right on. Now, with regards to your career, I think I remember reading that you talked early on. You were looking at carpentry and you were involved in a little bit, and there was kind of a fork in the road where you had to make a decision. I guess before we even get to that, when did you start drawing? Were you like 2 years old with a pencil and you were always doodling, or is this something you kind of, obviously you're born with it clearly, but how did that evolution take place for you, Joel?
Yeah, I've always loved drawing from the time I was a little kid, and I tell a story about when I first was exploring my talents and abilities. I was always getting very frustrated, like a lot of people do when they're trying to draw. You can see this picture in your head, and it's hard to get it to transfer down to a piece of paper when you're drawing or coloring. And I faced those same frustrations when I was young, but I did have a natural. Some natural gift for it, and my parents recognized that. My mom, I remember she went out and bought me a He-Man tracing book, because I was a big fan of He-Man when I was a kid, and so she got me this tracing book, and I was able to go through, had the coloring, the pages that you could color, but then the semi-transparent sheet in between, and I was able to use that tracing paper to draw out the shapes of the characters and stuff. And I think that's initially where I started being able to kind of train my hand to do what my mind could see. And I remember that being significant as when I was young, that helped me out a lot to kind of progress. But from then, from that time, since then I've always just loved drawing, and Worked hard to improve. I know there was a time when I was even in elementary school, I had ideas of making money with my artwork, and I'd do these little pictures I'd find a student that was interested, classmate, and I'd draw up their name with some sort of scenery around it, whether there's a volcano or some dinosaurs or something like that. And I'd have, kids stand around watching me as I was drawing, and I'd end up selling those little pieces for, a quarter or 50 cents or something like that. So even from early on, I was trying to find a way to make a little bit of money with my artwork. But yeah, it started early for me, and I worked hard to develop it. And it's been a long winding road to get to where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. Now that it's a job that you're doing it for a living, does it change that, there's one thing to be doing something because you love it. There's another thing to be doing it for a living. And, it has its plus and minuses, but is it changed for you as now that this is the day job? You get up in the morning, you're going down to the studio, and this is what you're doing all day.
I love it more than ever, honestly. I never get tired of the drawing and painting side of it. I look forward to it every day. It's awesome, and to be able to look forward to Monday morning. I feel blessed for that, But I was actually just talking to my wife today, saying how I do get burned out on marketing it, and sometimes I wish I could just kind of hunker down in my studio and just paint and just draw and just do it because it's what I love to do. I don't have a lot to complain about, but at times it gets tedious and difficult to continue, because I do all my marketing through social media, and in email campaigns and stuff like that. So it's time consuming to get my work out in front of people. And it's always a challenge with social media, with the algorithms, and, playing that game and trying to keep up with the way things change, and, how things are always different and evolving with Instagram and Facebook and stuff. So that part does get a little bit tedious, but again, I can't really complain, because I'm living my dream, and I'm able to provide for my family doing it. So it's yeah, it hasn't changed a ton. I still love it.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about inspiration. So obviously, clearly, there's a wildlife trend in a lot of what you do, but not exclusively. Obviously, there's that piece behind you with Santa in it. You've got I've seen you did a Frankenstein one recently. So how does that work? Is there stuff where you're out in nature, for example, you see and you experience something and you're like, it's locked in, and you're like, I'm going to go create that? Is there a collaborative aspect where I think I read somewhere that sometimes you collaborate with maybe a photographer? What's your inspiration for a lot of these pieces that you do, Joel?
Yeah, I use photo reference for all of my work, where it's so detailed and realistic. It's hard to get that kind of detail without the reference material, without the reference photos. So I work with wildlife photographers, to gain permission to use their work for reference for my artwork. I obviously change it quite a bit from where the photo is to where my final piece ends up. But I do mostly wildlife, mainly because that's what I love the most. I do enjoy, expanding beyond that occasionally, and it's just a lot of fun. I like to draw pretty much anything, but wildlife is, it's what I enjoy the most. And I do find inspiration in the outdoors. I try to get out as much as possible. I do a lot of mountain biking. I've got some four-wheelers side by side that I try to get out into the outdoors and spend as much time as possible. I don't often, see a lot of the animals that I like to draw and paint. I see a lot of mule deer, occasionally see some elk. If I go on trips, I'll see bison and stuff like that. But I don't have to see the animal. It helps to see the animal in their natural habitat, but I don't have to be inspired by the outdoors. Just being up in the mountains and seeing the way light and shadow plays across habitat and terrain, and just Mainly, honestly, I think it's more psychological than anything. Just being able to get up there, and it's kind of, it's where I can find that inspiration, find peace, and just it opens my mind, and I just feel better. And I've said before that if I can get out on the mountain for a bike ride or something like that in the morning before I come and work in my studio, then everything just seems to flow a lot better as I work through my processes and stuff. So yeah, I find a lot of inspiration in the outdoors itself as well.
Right on. So there's scenarios, like you said, not always seeing the wildlife, but is there something where you'll capture a scene, or maybe even picture, video, or something like that, and you'll take that back and use that for a piece of your work, or not necessarily?
Not very often. I mean, a really important part of, I feel like an important part of my artwork is the reference imagery, and how the quality of that imagery, it plays a big part in the final outcome of my piece and the quality of my piece. So I try to give credit as often as possible to the photographers that I work with, because I know they put in a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of talent on their end as well to come up with that imagery, that starting point for me. And so to be honest, I'm just not that good of a photographer. It's more of the mental images that I see, and like I said, kind of seeing how the light plays across the land and the terrain, and just that feeling. I try to bring that into some of the pieces that I do, and that's a lot of times that's how I'll change and manipulate the reference, is with lighting and with the background. And I don't do a ton of detail in the landscape and habitat. I try to keep that more secondary to the subject, the animal, and even more, a little more abstract, which just, it lends to my individual style, and it's what I like to do. But yeah.
Awesome. So a typical piece for you. So you start off, let's say you get you see a piece of artwork or a photography that inspires you, and you go, okay, I want to do something there. Start to finish, what's your timeline on something like that project? And I know they vary depending on size and a whole bunch of other factors, but an average, would you say, that you'd put into something?
Yeah, well, first off, what you mentioned there it made me think. I don't usually start with the image. I usually start with an idea, composition in my head, and then I go out and look for an image that matches what the composition that I have in my mind. And I'm real flexible with that, so I'm able to take something that's maybe not exactly what I had in mind, but this reference image. If I take this and take this portion of it and maybe leave that portion out, then I can crop it a different way. Then I can kind of create that idea or concept that I had in my mind. But once I actually start working on the image, it all depends on, it varies by size, by medium, by the subject matter, the content in it, whether there's one or two subjects or more going on. But I typically average a few days for charcoal, depending on the size and the complexity of it, to a few weeks for painting. My charcoal stuff goes a lot quicker. The painting, when I'm painting, color, that just takes a lot more time for me to develop those images.
So with regards to that, you mentioned charcoal, and that a lot of your content is that. Do you have a preference? Obviously that's does well for you, but is that your preference? Do you like the painting side of it, or do you like to switch it up? What's a preferred, medium for you?
I'd have to say that I enjoy the charcoal process more. That's my first love. My first passion is black and white and working with the charcoal. And I've worked hard to develop kind of a unique style with the charcoal, especially working charcoal on canvas. It's not something that many artists do. And I've worked hard to develop that process, and the result, I'm always excited about it, because it creates such a different result than traditional charcoal work. My final product with charcoal is much more durable and higher, just the actual physical product is higher quality than what you typically get when you do charcoal on paper. But so I enjoy the charcoal process more, but painting is more difficult for me. But sometimes the end result on painting, it just, sometimes I when I'm done, I step back and I look at it and I'm like, holy cow, I did that. So sometimes the result is more satisfying with the painting. I don't know. It's tough to say. I enjoy it all, but yeah, I just lucky I get to do both, I guess.
Yeah, it's cool. So do you see an evolution in your work? Like, obviously you as time marches on, things do change a little bit, but do you see yourself 10 years from now doing, obviously in the world of art, but doing something completely different, like a different medium, different, do you see any evolution there, or do you kind of staying in your lane?
I'm going to guess there will be evolution. I like to try new things. I like to push my limits. I like to explore. I've always considered art to be an adventure. And that's like with the charcoal on canvas. It's something, when I first had the idea, I went out and looked to see if anybody was doing it, and I couldn't find anything, any instruction on it, any tutorials on it or anything. So, and that to me was exciting, because I was like, nobody's doing this. I bet I can make it work. And it was fun to go through the trial and error and, different ideas, different processes, until I was able to put together a complete process that worked for me. And then I went from there and started adding an acrylic wash, which so I've got my black and white charcoal stuff, and then I've got kind of the tonal stuff that it's a mixed media. I use charcoal and acrylic together on that one, on that style, and then I have just my acrylic paint. But developing that style with the acrylic wash that I put down first, and then laying the charcoal over top, that was exciting for me to figure out as well, to go through that process and exploration. And I've got other ideas. I got more I want to try, more things I want to experiment with. So yeah, I foresee there being more progression, and I mean, I see it not just in the processes, but the more I work, the more I push myself, I see improvement as well in the actual, technical side of drawing and painting. And I look back some of the first pieces I did 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, it's okay, but I like where I'm at now better. I like how far I've come. So yeah. Awesome.
So professionally, I think I read in your bio that you were a founder of like 3 different companies, like Mtn Ops and a couple of, is that true as well? Is there anything you can't do? Like,
well, and it was, it's been, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's been a long winding road to get to where I'm at. And a lot of that is just because it's not easy to make a living as an artist. I always wanted to, from the time I was a little kid, up in the mountains with the wildlife. My dream was to become a wildlife artist, but it's not easy to make money as a wildlife artist. And especially, 10, 15 years ago, it was much more difficult, since since the emergence of social media as a tool for marketing and getting my work out in front of people, in front of customers. That's made it a lot easier. But prior, I'm a little bit older guy. I'm in my 40s, so I was around before Facebook and Instagram and social media. And back then, when I was trying to be an artist, it was a lot more difficult. And what I ended up doing was turning to graphic design and digital art and digital illustration. So that's where I started as an artist, was on the digital side of things. And with that, I always had a strong entrepreneurial spirit. I always wanted to create companies, and having the artistic ability and the graphic design knowledge that I had, I got into a lot of branding and marketing, and that just led to starting companies, with the desire that I had to build brands and do that kind of stuff, and the skills that I had. It just led from one company to another, one failure to another, and then eventually after quite a few tries, I got a couple that worked out pretty well. But yeah, I helped start a marketing / design firm that then kind of morphed into the Mtn Ops, nutritional supplement company that's out there now in the hunting industry. And I was one of the original founders there, helped develop the brand and manage the creative team for the first few years the company was in existence. And it was awesome. It was a fun ride.
Yeah.
Ended up going a different direction. Just different things happen, as they do sometimes with companies and partnerships. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I don't regret any of it. I learned a lot, and still keep in contact with the guys from Mtn Ops, and it's fun to see that company continue to progress and see my brand out there in the world, in the wild.
Yeah.
See the logo all the time. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cool to see.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch a bit on I think you've done some collaboration on the conservation side of things. So I believe you did a collaboration with Orvis and that sort of stuff. So maybe touch a little bit on that and the conservation side of aspect of it and that aspect of it, if you don't mind, for us, Joel.
Yeah. I work often with conservation groups. That one with Orvis that you're talking about, that was I worked through Pheasants Forever, and they put the whole deal together. I've worked with them on quite a few projects, and it's a great group of guys. It's fun to work with them. They've been really good to me, giving me opportunities and exposure, and it's been great. And it's awesome for me. And I think I just did a podcast with them recently, and I mentioned this in that podcast, but it's when it comes to conservation side of things, I feel like I owe so much to the hunting community specifically, and to the wildlife that's out there. That's how I make my living. That's how I feed my family, and to be able to, help raise a little bit of money to give back, to help with habitat preservation and conservation of these species. It's awesome. It's something that I'm really grateful for. I've worked with Pheasants Forever. I've done a lot with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation as well. I've done their banquet print for the last 3 years. We've got 2 previous ones, and then 2023 we're just working on just about to go to press with that one for their 2023 banquet program. And I've worked with Mule Deer Foundation. They're right here local in Salt Lake City. So yeah, I had a lot of opportunity to work with conservation groups, and it's been good. It's nice to be able to think that my work may be helping a little bit with some of those efforts.
Yeah, well, no question it does. And then, just the awareness too, right? That, you look at your influencers and the people behind you and sharing your messages and the fact that you're sharing your product and telling your story through your platform, it goes a long way. It makes a huge difference. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about family. So, you were raised up in a hunting family, had the influence of your father. Let's talk about the next generation of Pilchers. Let's talk a little bit about getting them out in the field. Do we have any aspiring artists coming out of the fold there? What's happening on that end of things?
Yeah. All my kids are showing promise on the art side of things. They've got talent. I've got my oldest son he'll be 18 in about a week and a half. So that's really making me feel old. But he's actually it's funny. He has a lot of interest in graphic design and art. When I don't do as much graphic design now, but back when I did, even when he was younger, he'd sometimes just stand over my shoulder and watch me as I would design logos and stuff. And he would surprisingly have some very quality suggestions on some of the stuff I was doing. And there's a few tweaks that I made at his suggestion that ended up really having a major impact on the final result of the project, and kept his suggestion in it. And so it was it's fun to see that. And he has some skill with drawing as well, along with my other kids. They all love to draw, love art, and I think some of them may my wife says it's a blessing and a curse, but she's been with me through the good times and the bad as far as my profession goes. So yeah, being an artist isn't always easy, but there's potential for it to be really, really good. So yeah, I hope they are able to pursue that, whether it's as a profession or even just as a hobby, something that, because doing art is very, very therapeutic. So if they can maintain that love for it and develop it even further and be able to turn to art, whether it's to make money or just to relax and enjoy as part of enjoying life, I hope they're able to do that.
Yeah. Now, with you, 100% self-taught, or is there any somebody obviously you talked about the early days where you had your Hulk? Was it the Hulk tracing?
He-Man,
sorry.
tracing.
Yeah. Was it all self-taught, or was there ever an element where you went to school and obviously lots of support along the way, but technical training?
I did. I took art classes in high school, and then I did 1 or 2 semesters of college, but it just wasn't. It wasn't helping. It just wasn't helping me progress like I wanted to, and I found I could learn more on my own. Going online for inspiration. Self-taught's kind of a tricky term, if you ask me, because self-instructed, I guess maybe, but I have watched a lot of tutorials. YouTube's great for that. I've been inspired by a lot of different artists, looked to their work and their techniques and processes. So yeah, it's self-instructed, but self-taught, I don't know. It's inspired by many. Self-taught, but inspired by many, maybe is a good way to put it.
Right on. So now
but no formal education as far as art school or anything like that.
Yeah, cool. So now with your kids, showing some interest and aspiring, and your son now being 18, would you ever say, go to university or go to college, or just, I guess it's kind of like follow your dream and see where it takes you type thing. It worked well for you. Obviously, you didn't need to go to school for that.
Yeah. Formal or traditional education is kind of a tricky thing now. I think it all comes down to, the career path that you're looking at. I think obviously there's some professions where it's, it's completely necessary. You have to go to school, have to get a degree. But at this point, I think there's a lot of others where not only is it not necessary, but I think there are probably even better ways to educate yourself, to find that education that you need rather than going to a college or university. As far as my kids go, I kind of expressed that to him. The thing with my oldest son, he's not only is he gifted with art, but he's also a math whiz, which I don't know where he doesn't get that from me. That must come from his mom, because I'm terrible with numbers. But he's really good, so he has a lot of interest, and I think he's going to have a lot of options, which may prove to be more difficult for him. It's going to be a tougher decision for him to make, not just on his career path, but his education as well. So we're encouraging him to keep all doors open, and he's his senior year of high school right now, so we're trying to help him figure out what he needs to do to apply for some scholarships, just so he has the option. But he's at that point, that fun point in life where he's got to start making some big decisions.
Yeah. You might have to expand the studio downstairs. You might have to make some big ones yourself.
Yeah. No, there's been some talk of that too. I'm not sure exactly what he wants to do, but he's got a little bit of time, but there's some potential for that. I've got some ideas with my business where if I had a little more help, I could expand it and do some fun things. And he'd be an excellent guy to have around to help out with some of that stuff.
Right on. So in terms of projects coming up, anything exciting you can share with us? Anything you want to talk about, or is it a lot of your stuff you got to keep it under lock and key until it's ready to roll?
No, most of my stuff is, I work at most of it on my own timetable, and not much of it is, unless I'm doing a custom commission for some sort of a Christmas or birthday gift, and I'm usually asked to keep that stuff quiet. But right now I don't do a ton of commissions. I occasionally take on one here and there, but no, I've got some cool stuff coming up. I finished up that piece for Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation it's a guy with on a horse leading a pack horse behind him with an elk on it, and I had such a huge response from it, and I had so much fun creating it I've actually got another concept in the works to do another one similar with, with some pack horses. So I got that one coming up, and then I'm actually going to be teaming up with Mtn Ops on a project. If you go to my Instagram, I just posted about it a week or two ago. I did a concept sketch of a guy packing out an elk. So he's a bow hunter, just on foot, packing an elk out on his back. And I'm really excited about that project, but I've been talking with Mtn Ops a little bit about doing some sort of a collaboration with it. So that's something coming up that should be a lot of fun as well. And I got this Santa Claus piece that I'm about done with, trying to finish that up in time to have it out there so that it's available for purchase before Christmas, before the Christmas season hits.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, and then after that, I've got a list a mile long of subjects I want to draw and paint. So it's just kind of going to that list and seeing which one feels right.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. One thing I was going to talk to you about, one thing that I love about what you do, Joel, is you tell your story quite often with your artwork through Instagram. So you got your stories or your videos, and you document everything that you're doing. Do you enjoy that aspect of it? Is it a lot of work? Like it's great for content. It's great for somebody that's checking your work out, but is it a pain in the neck, or is it something you really enjoy, is sharing your process through that?
I enjoy it. I do. It is a lot of work, and it does take away from, the actual creation time, and it kind of disrupts the flow a little bit. So it is work. But it is fun to be able to put it out there for people to see and to get the reaction and the engagement from the audience. I enjoy, seeing their reaction. I get a ton of questions from other artists, from aspiring artists, and other people out there that are working in the industry and trying to make a living at it and everything. And I enjoy interacting with them and answering questions and having, discussions and conversations through social media with those other artists as well. So it's probably, 80% enjoyable, 20%, kind of where it disrupts the flow, the creative flow a little bit, but it's what I got to do. It's marketing. You have to market. I have to market my work. So it's part of the deal.
Yeah. Well, you do a fantastic job. And that's what I was thinking. I'm looking at this. I'm like, this is so cool. I would love your elephant sketch was really, really cool. I loved watching that evolve. But I was thinking, man, everything you're doing, you got to think about where you're standing and how you're creating. And, it's just a lot of work goes into that, I can imagine. So.
Yeah, it was fun. Just the other day, my wife came down to my studio area, and I was tripping over cords and knocking over tripods. And it's like I never imagined, when I thought it'd be cool to be a professional artist one day. I never imagined that I'd have so many lights set up and so many tripods and cameras and all this equipment, cords everywhere. I try to keep that, behind the scenes so it doesn't distract. But yeah, it's a little different than what I imagined it would be, but it's good.
Yeah, awesome. You talked about aspiring artists and sort of this mentoring piece, and you talked about you being mentored and you mentoring others. How important is that? Is that kind of the heart of what you believe in, and how important is that to pass that along to the next generation? You're creating competition effectively, right? But how important is that to you?
Yeah, I don't remember where it was or where I heard it, but it was years and years ago. I heard somebody say that life gives to givers and takes from takers. Mm. And that hit me really hard when I heard that. And I decided that I wanted to kind of take that on as a mantra. And since I heard that, I've been just willing to share everything I learned. And it really, in my opinion, it really has worked out that way, where I've been blessed because anytime anybody asks me a question about my processes, about what I do, how I'm marketing it, anything like that, I try to be as open as possible. And I can only see good things that have come from it. It's not always typical of artists in the art industry. Some are a lot more secretive with what they do and, how they do it, but, to each their own. But to me, it's just been, I think it's been more of a blessing to be open and to share and to, give, because I think it's true. Life gives to givers and takes from takers. And it's worked out well for me. I can't say how it would be for everybody else, but for me, it's been a good kind of philosophy to live by.
Awesome. So let's talk hunting. What's do you got anything on the docket this fall for any hunts, or what's on the agenda?
I don't. To be honest, I kind of fell out of hunting a few years ago. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've been hunting. I've every year when spring rolls around and time to put in for draws here in Utah, I'm always tempted. Mm-hmm. But the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't. Every year in the spring, I get a call from my dad or a text message from me. Hey, we're gonna do it this year. And I'm like, I don't know, are we? And he's like, Nah, let's not. And we end up going fishing or mountain biking or something like that instead. So we still get out there and enjoy it. But I think I don't know. I may get back into it one day. I think I've tried to get my kids into it, and they just haven't shown any interest at all. I took them a few times years ago, and I think that makes it tough for me with limited amount of time and stuff with my family. If I'm gonna take time off of work and I want to spend it with my family, and I just haven't shown that interest in it. But yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah,
I hope to. But I still get out there. I mean, we go up to Idaho every fall and do some mountain biking. Me and my dad, and I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before. We got up back into the hills and got into a herd of elk, and they were bugling, and it was so cool.
Yeah, that's it for me. And my biggest thing is just being out there, right? If I have the, I went a 2-week sheep hunt this fall and never lifted my rifle, but had nothing to do with that. It just had to be out in the landscape, being out there with those animals and seeing them. And that's the connection for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So, on that note, how about some sheep? I see there's a little bit of sheep stuff in there, but it's not sheep heavy. So how often do you do sheep work?
I actually love drawing and painting sheep. Funny, I don't know if it's my audience, I built my social media audience through collaborations, and I did a lot of collaborations with Hush and with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and with Elk 101 and even Mtn Ops. It was more kind of elk centric. So that's kind of my audience. So I don't know if I have a lot of sheep hunters or not. I try to do more. I would love to do more, but every time I draw a sheep, my wife's like, why are you doing that? They just don't sell. Why aren't you drawing an elk? Because they just don't sell as well for me and for my audience. But no, I've actually always been kind of partial to sheep. Elk are my favorite, but sheep are a close second there. And they're just, I've done a few pieces that I've really, really enjoyed, and I hope to do more.
Well, if you look at it from a purely numbers perspective, you look at how many elk tags are sold in the U.S. each year and how many sheep tags, and that right there says it all, right? So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but I do enjoy drawing and painting them. They're a fun species. They're a challenge. Those, the rings on the horns that takes so much time. Mm-hmm. It's so tedious, but man, they're cool animals.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to try and talk you into some sort of collaboration on the sheep side of things. See if we can get a sheep market created for you here in Canada or the U.S. or something. So, yeah,
that'd be cool. I sell a lot of artwork to Canada. It's fun. Appreciate the support I've gotten from up north of the border. It's been really good.
Yeah, awesome. So plans for the fall? You said you're going to do some fly fishing and some off-roading with the family. You got anything else planned for the fall that's exciting?
It looks like I'm putting together a trip going down to Moab here just in a couple of weeks on mountain biking. Going to ride the whole enchilada.
Okay.
It's a huge ride I've always wanted to do and never been able to. I can't remember how far it is, but it's a shuttle ride, so we take a shuttle up to the top, and then it's over 7,000 feet of descent.
Wow!
So it's just a ride coming down off the mountain down into the Red Rock area. So I got that plan, and then again, trying to get up to Island Park area again to do some riding up there as well. I do a lot of mountain biking. That's kind of become my passion, and it is a good way to get out in the outdoors and see the wildlife and see see nature and just really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So that's kind of become my go-to for recreation.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, hey, I can't thank you enough, Joel. We've been trying to put this together for a little bit, and I know that you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. And yeah, it's just awesome to connect, and just so thankful for your work, man. It's just so inspirational, and we've had a number of people say to us, "You got to get Joel on the podcast. We want to hear from this guy." So, just really thankful for you taking the time today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you inviting me on. It's been great to talk to you. So thank you.
Awesome.